Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from Telesur headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our top stories. You stay with us because we begin talking about Colombia because another community and social leader has been killed there in Colombia. The body of Luis Caldera Villamizar was found in the Cauca River on Sunday morning. Caldera was reported missing 15 days ago in the town of San Jacinto del Cauca. He was the head of the Association of Communal Action Boards in his municipality and candidate for the town council. Since the peace deal was signed in 2016, more than 620 community and social leaders have been killed in Colombia. In order to have more details about this new model of Colombia social leaders, we have the following report from our correspondent, José Manuel Jiménez. Welcome, José Manuel.
The body of community leader Luis Caldera Villamizar was recovered from the river Cauca near the town of San Jacinto del Cauca in the department of Bolívar. Field workers found the body floating with the legs and hands tied together and the signs of torture. Authorities have already launched an investigation into the case and are expected to deliver an initial report on the possible reason behind his murder. Caldera was also part of the political party and a candidate for the town council. His party has commented on his death so far.
Thank you, José Manuel, and we continue talking about Colombia because the Colombian senator and former presidential candidate Gustavo Petro, who has called on President Iván Duque to take more care of the displaced citizens. Petro met with a group of Colombian refugees in France who were evicted by French authorities from the places they occupied. He says the government of Iván Duque has the obligation to work with France in order to ensure safe housing for Colombian and other Latin American refugees fleeing war, violence, and poverty. And we change region and topic. The Iranian oil tanker at the center of a diplomatic dispute departed from Gibraltar late on Sunday after local authorities rejected a U.S. latest request not to release it. The tanker was seized by United Kingdom Marines back on July 4th on suspicion of violating European Union sanctions by delivering oil to Syria. Earlier on Sunday, the ship was reflagged to Iran's flag and changed its name to Adrian Daria before heading to the Mediterranean. And also talking about Iran, because they are ready to introduce a new generation of uranium-enriching centrifuge to boost its uranium production. Chair of the Parliament's Nuclear Committee, Mohammad Ebrahim Rezai, said the implementation of this centrifuge would be part of the third step in reducing Iran's commitments to the 2015 nuclear deal with the West. The new centrifuges are 20 times more powerful than the machines Iran is currently using to enrich uranium. Iran has so far reduced twice some of its commitments under the nuclear deal, also called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. But the government promised that these measures can be reversed as soon as Europe finds a way to convince the United States to lift its sanctions on Iran. United States, which withdrew from the nuclear deal in May 2018, have repeatedly accused Iran of breaking the deal, even though the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed that several times that Iran complies with all chapters of the deal. And now we go to the Caribbean because the Assembly of Caribbean Peoples continue in Trinidad and Tobago with delegates from movements in 15 countries. Participants have discussed the fight against the imperialist agenda and the need to strengthen social resistance and the integration of the region. The meeting agenda also includes debates on climate change and social change and the issues of racism, nationalism, and xenophobia. The gathering will culminate this Monday with a final declaration which will include the commitments derived from the Assembly's constructive dialogue.
No more Trump! No more Trump! No more Trump! No more Trump!
That "No More Trump" slogan began in Venezuela, where signatures have been collected for over a week as a response to United States intervention on the Venezuelan people. In Coche Parish of Caracas, the mayor of the municipality of Libertador, Erika Farias Peña, participated in the painting of an anti-imperialist mural as the campaign against unilateral sanction continues in Venezuela. Like this, we go to a first break here from the South. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. You stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
为了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on Telesur.
And we begin in South Africa, in Tanzania, where members of the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, have called on the United States and European Union to immediately lift economic sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe. Tanzanian President and Chairman of the bloc, John Magufuli, says that the policy is hurting the region. Meanwhile, the Zimbabwean president has blamed the sanctions for crippling development in the country. The sanctions were imposed in 2002 when Robert Mugabe was president.
Among the resolutions we reached is we shall continue pursuing international organizations to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe. We'll do this through our ambassadors and other regional blocs. And just to make it clear, all the presidents from SADC member countries, we have agreed in one voice to be supportive of Zimbabwe in this and to never leave them alone.
Member countries of the Southern African Development Community, as we were saying, SADC, agreed to adopt Swahili as a formal language in the region during the 39th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government. Tanzanian President John Magufuli said at the opening of the event that they must accelerate the adoption of Swahili as one of the 4 official languages in SADC, along with English, Portuguese, and French. It would be used first at the Council and Summit level as a language for oral communication and then for written communication with SADC. Swahili currently is an official language of the African Union and the lingua franca in most of East Africa and parts of Central and Southern Africa. Participants to the 39th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government of the SADC will also discuss progress towards regional and continental integration, development cooperation and resource mobilization, as well as industrialization strategies of these countries and those aimed at empowering young people. And we change topic. Burials have taken place in Afghanistan after a bomb exploded at a wedding hall, killing at least 63 people and wounding more than 118. The terrorist group Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack. The blast happened on Saturday during a wedding ceremony when a suicide bomber blew himself up inside the ceremony while another detonated a car bomb outside. The president, Ashraf Ghani, has condemned the attack, describing it as a barbaric.
The targeting of our people in such events, like wedding parties, schools, mosques, markets, and public places, indicates the atrocity of a terrorist group who is determined to kill innocents. The Taliban cannot absolve themselves of blame, for they provide a platform for terrorists.
And Sudan's military council and protest leaders have signed a constitutional declaration that paves way for a transition to civilian government. The agreement urges a new governing council, including both civilians and generals, to pave the way towards elections. It also formalizes the creation of a transitional administration that will be guided by an 11-member sovereign council comprised of 6 civilians and 5 military personnel. The two sides have agreed to rotate the chairmanship of the council for the next 39 months. Prime ministers of Ethiopia and Egypt and South Sudanese president were among regional leaders attending the signing ceremony on Saturday.
I assure you that our armed forces will do their best in order to protect the will of the people and the safety of the transition to a democratic civil rule.
Let the arrest warrant and accusation issued by the International Court of Justice against the ousted President Omar al-Bashir be witness to the fact that the old regime left no crime uncommitted. All of these crimes against our people makes the legitimate questioning and evaluation aimed at bringing justice to the victims and the families one of the most important roles of the government.
And now we move on to China, where about 180 police officers have been injured after being attacked by violent protesters, according to Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government. They say that police officers' family members are also under different degrees of intimidation and bullying. A notice from Hong Kong authorities said that unfortunately radical and violent protesters repeatedly carried out illegal acts during the last 2 months, and that the government fully supports the police in efforts to enforce the law and restore peace. Footage has circulated showing protesters destroying public property, throwing bricks and targeting police stations. And this weekend on Saturday specifically, demonstrations were held at a park in Hong Kong with calls for an end to violence and riots. Nearly 500,000 residents rallied at a condemnation of the targeting of police and the support by United States-based NGO and local groups which are U.S.-financed. A massive fire has swept through a slum in the capital of Bangladesh, leaving more than 10,000 people homeless. No deaths have been reported so far, although several people were injured. According to officials, many homes in the Dhaka slum had plastic roofs, which helped the flames to spread. An investigation is underway to discover the cause of the fire.
It's all burnt. We have nothing now. All our belongings and houses have been burnt. Whatever we had in our houses, we could not save. My belongings were worth about 500,000 taka. I had some gold ornaments and other clothes. All were burnt. What else can I say? I have nothing more to say.
And the Open Arms rescue ship rejected the offer from the Spanish government to land at a port in this country due to humanitarian reasons after 2 weeks of wait, and wiped Italy for its refusal to offer a port. The Spanish NGO Proactiva Open Arms, which operates a humanitarian vessel, rejected the proposal made on Sunday by the president of the Spanish government, Pedro Sánchez, to move to the port of Algeciras, given Italy's refusal, which would take the boat about 5 days to navigate almost 1,000 miles to reach the Andalusian port, the farthest in the Mediterranean Sea. According to Oscar Camps, the director and founder of Proactiva Open Arms, on a Twitter post on their 17-day kidnapped of the Open Arms, they have been warning for days of the situation. The Italian Administrative Court ordered disembarkation and urgent assistance.
We do not accept Spain as a port. We cannot risk the safety of all these people. They need to disembark now. We are in a state of humanitarian emergency. We cannot put the physical integrity of the people rescued and the crew through 6 more days of sailing.
Residents of the Srinagar in Indian-occupied Kashmir took to the streets on Sunday demanding freedom after New Delhi reimposed movement restrictions. Many of the protesters marched with their faces covered while chanting, "We want freedom." Indian authorities have said they lifted the movement restriction. However, major parts of the city are still blocked by police. Security forces have also erected state barricades and used wires to block roads. The security lockdown has entered its 14th straight day after India stripped occupied Jammu and Kashmir of its semi-autonomous status.
No one in the world can stop us from having our freedom. That is our basic right, freedom.
The day is of 24 hours, out of which they eased the movement restriction for half an hour. I'm worried about everything, my children and my family.
And like this, we make a second and very short break. You stay tuned with us.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Earth. Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur. Back with Latin American news, Bolivia's President Evo Morales joined candidates of the movement towards socialism known as the MAS movement on a metropolitan cycling caravan. They toured 4 municipalities of Cochabamba as part of his campaign ahead of the October 20th elections. President Morales was accompanied by Governor of the department, the President of the Parliamentary Brigade of the region, and Major Humberto Sanchez. Applause and support chants could be heard as residents lined areas of the route. And in Peru, no one less women's rights movements demonstrated in Lima on Saturday to condemn gender-based violence. Protesters were escorted by a heavy police presence as the group stopped outside the nation's Supreme Court. The demonstration was sparked by figures published by the Women's Ministry showing that 103 women were killed in acts of gender-based violence so far in this year.
We women march every year. We go out constantly to demand justice, to demand an end to violence against us. We do it for us, for the survivors, and also the victims who were killed and in memory of them. We are now on the streets. Even so, the state does not listen to us. The state is being complacent. The justice also does not listen to us, nor do they give us justice.
And now we go to Nicaragua because we are going to look at the impact which gender equality measures have had in the Sandinista government country. We'll show you on the next story.
It's a well-known fact that the countries that make up the Northern Triangle of Central America, Honduras, El Salvador and Guatemala, have some of the highest homicide rates in the world and are suffering from a migration phenomenon as people flee in search of a better life. In the face of these issues, political activists in Nicaragua held a forum focusing on women's issues and on preserving peace in the region. Dorothea Granada was born in the US but has been living in Nicaragua since the 1980s and is a director of an organization that promotes women's rights from health to safety and empowerment.
In every Latin American country, women come second. We are second-class citizens. In Nicaragua, since the Sandinista revolution was victorious, every year we have more laws in support of women.
Women's empowerment can be seen and felt, says Carmen, whose life changed 7 years ago. She used to be a homemaker, but now she owns her own food business. She's part of 133,000 women who are part of cooperatives promoted by the Sandinista government that help them start their own businesses.
They give us plenty of help, starting from loans. There's no stealing here. This is great help for us women to get ahead. But we need to set our own goals and put in work, because if we're not determined to get ahead, then we won't.
At this gathering, the main topics discussed are the restitution of women's rights and globally recognised government programmes that have pushed it to be one of the countries with the highest rate of gender equality.
I think the role of a woman in Nicaragua can be seen from various angles. I prefer to look at it from a quality standpoint, because often women are part of a political system, but they don't have power to effect change. They cannot make decisions, and that's what's important. That empowers women and helps them move ahead. This is the sort of progress that has been made in Nicaragua. Women have been truly empowered.
According to the UN, 80% of the victims of people trafficking in Central America are women. As such, the Sandinista government has announced that they are working on legislation to punish crimes against the dignity of women.
And now we go to Argentina because Economy Minister Nicolás Duhovne has resigned in a cabinet reshuffle following President Mauricio Macri's defeat in last weekend's primary elections. Duhovne was the architect of Argentina's $57 billion bailout deal with the International Monetary Fund signed last year. His replacement comes as the fund said it may suspend a visit to Argentina next week following President Mauricio Macri's latest economic measures. A series of tax breaks and bonuses were intended to woo back voters, but social movements have rejected them as too little and too late. And this week, the government of Argentina announced a series of tax breaks and bonuses to try to woo voters after the left won last weekend's primary elections. More on the following story that we present for you.
After the run on the peso following the elections, some producers stopped selling because of the uncertainty. By Friday, the currency stabilized at 17.6% below its value the week before, and retailers put up their prices accordingly.
Milk, cheese, flour and oil. I did the shopping yesterday and it was really tough. I get the minimum pension and it's very difficult.
The peso has fallen and that means everything has gone up. For example, soft drinks and biscuits. Everything.
Medicines were also affected.
Since yesterday, we have been increasing the prices between 10 to 15%. And yes, people are feeling it. They ask and look for a cheaper alternative, but that's the way it is.
Tamiro sells farm produce.
Our costs have gone up 20%, but we haven't passed it on to the consumers yet. because we are selling very little, and if we put the price up, we'll sell nothing.
It's a chain, and this is our livelihood. If sales go down here, then my standard of living goes down, so, well, one thing feeds into another.
The government eliminated VAT on basic goods, which was at 10.5%, but consumers say this measure is not reflected in the prices they have to pay.
From what I remember of the history of this country, every time a measure is taken that's meant to benefit the people, the consumers and the businesses absorb the benefits and the prices never go down. When the peso has gone up, I never saw the prices go down to reflect that. And now the peso is falling, and I think the companies are just taking advantage of it.
In the shops, people say the government's measures to benefit Argentinian consumers have so far had no effect, but the price rises are already a reality.
And from Argentina, we go to the Caribbean because there they have converged in Trinidad and Tobago for the Caribbean Festival of Arts known as Carifesta, which kicked off in Puerto Spain on Friday. Scenes at the opening night included performances and bands from different Caribbean nations and a welcome to visitors and participants from Prime Minister Keith Rowley. The event includes food, music, visual art and discussions on topics such as how Caribbean culture can be leveraged to boost economies as well as to boost quality of life. Another key issue during this edition will be the issue of reparations. Carifesta will be celebrating it until August 25th.
It's a showcase of our food, our dance, our song, our artists, our intellect, and our indomitable Caribbean spirit. But there's a tinge of sadness that we could only note and move on for the moment, and that is we are still separate sovereign states when it could have been better. Maybe one border around us all, identifying us as one people, might have given us a little tangier taste to our Caribbeanness. But all is not lost. We are working assiduously towards the creation of a Caribbean single market and economy. And as we do that step by step, milestone by milestone, one day, hopefully in the not too distant future, politically will be identified and economically will be identified as the people of the Caribbean who have come into this region from all parts of the world, but living together in harmony, prospering and enjoying probably the best location on the globe.
And like this, with this invitation of the Caribbean to enjoy Carifesta, we come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find this and much more other information on our website, terrestrialenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and find so much more other material that we produce especially for you. So you continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.